you've got to come prepared. You've got to educate yourself. You got to see what the industry standards are so you can have some performance stuff put together like that to hold them accountable. There has to be accountability.
Exactly.
That's the one thing that I had to learn the hard way was without accountability, they're going to collect your money and they're glad you don't know the numbers. They're glad you don't know what things to hold them accountable to because they can just do the bare minimum and then get away with it.
That's right.
This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. My name's Jefferson Rogers, and today in the studio, I got the man of the hour, Mr. Matt Hobson. He runs our digital marketing department here at JKR Windows. Today, we're going to be discussing a couple things like technology and data collection, systems and processes, all kinds of things that have helped us here at JKR Windows and that could help you in your small business, home services, whatever the case, to be able to take it to the next level in your sales and your marketing approach. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
By the way, have you done a podcast before?
I don't think I have.
Yes.
So I think
we're on a streak, Colton.
Let's think about it. Yeah, no, I think this is the first time.
That's awesome. So I think like the past 4 people that we've had on have never done a podcast before.
Oh, really? Well, awesome.
Great way to break you in on the Just Real Quick podcast.
Yep.
So excited to get to jam with you today on some stuff that we've been working on generally and just some things within the home services industry that can help other businesses really get some traction in their digital marketing and communications and their systems and processes and ads and all kinds of stuff we can talk about today.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we start with technology and how you've seen that transform over the past several years since you started getting into this?
Well, sure. So really, if you think about it, when it comes to this information age, we're still in the birth of it. I mean, you think about the course of human history. I mean, we barely just figured out how to make things run on electricity, truly, if we're thinking about the full scope of things. And so when you think about what we're doing, the exponential growth that we've had over the last 20 years has been ridiculous. I mean, we were climbing like this as a whole society, and then all of a sudden, we took off. And so that's really where we are right now. And we're still trying to figure out how to use it in the best way. It's kind of like when the computer came out.
And it's still changing so fast. Like even you keep up a lot of that on a lot of the technology changes through LinkedIn and YouTube.
I do. I
and
live
it's
and
just
breathe
crazy.
Every month I'm looking at some new innovation that just makes life easier for everyone, as well as the home services industry, sales. And that's really, of course, that's what I'm living and breathing. And there's big talks right now. We all know the trend of AI, and really the big difficulty that we have in the technology industry is deciding what is a trend and what is innovation.
What's here to stay, what can really truly help your business.
Exactly. And so that's the big trick is are we looking at 3D curved TVs that were a trending item for a while, or are we looking at 4K flat TVs that are here and staying, right? And so that's the big item. And I'll tell you right now, the big buzz talk, and we're trying to decide whether it's a trend, is AI. However, AI is still in its infancy. Consider it 28K modem of the internet. We're figuring out what it can do, what it can't do, and it's being tested in so many applications. That it's somewhat difficult to decide.
I've only played around with it a little bit and in very limited types of ways, but I was starting to find some limitations. Like it seems just so smart and it's incredibly intuitive. But then, the more data that you put in there, there's a ton of limitations.
Oh yeah.
Like if you want to get, I just wrote a book, so I was trying to get a breakdown on the book and have it summarize it and put it into a format that I could use in a very short format, kind of like Headway or some of these other apps that break down a book. And you couldn't even put one chapter in there, let alone a whole book.
Right.
So like what are the next steps of AI and what are the capabilities and how do you apply it to your business in sales and marketing?
So sure. So if we look at AI, it's been around for a long time. Even with your Google Maps or telling it, hey, give me directions to this place, Well, that's AI working. It's looking at fastest routes. It's taking data of reported roadblocks, speed traps, and things of that sort, and then it's compiling it into a predictive analysis. Now,
which I think is bullshit. This morning I was using the maps, and it's supposed to be so smart.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's intentionally trying to take me off of the track to see how I respond.
So you're speaking to the exact point, is how reliable is it really, right? And because it's in its infancy, I think the more input it receives, the more reliable it becomes. So I only anticipate, and really shortly.
They were trying to collect data on me today. Like, how dumb is this MFer?
But
we're going to tell him to go left when he knows he's supposed to go right.
Well, here's the fun thing, that as far as an industry item, is we're seeing applications that there's a lot of public information about you. And this is where it gets into whether this is ethical or whether this is, well, we know it's legal. Think about the information about my home. Someone could zoom down on my home right now on their computer, zoom in, see how I hold my home, how it's listed on title. They can see my voting record. They can see my entire history. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to sales, that's pretty valuable information, especially with marketing. And that's a huge conversation that's happening in the world today is how much do we really want our computer to know about us? Because if our computer knows about us, so does everyone else. But releasing that for what it is and let the ethical arguments be done by the people who are really in depth in the code, what it can do for us right now is if I, at a point, want to say, hey, who lives in front of this address that I'm standing in front of? Oh, John and Jane Doe live at this address, and they could really use some new doors because he's been searching for doors on his computer over the last 3 months. This one's been looking for windows.
And here's even their credit score.
No kidding. Exactly.
And if they would be considered qualified.
That's right. It'll go through their entire history, because everything from criminal backgrounds to both financial statements, voting records, search history. Imagine that being placed on a map and you being able to look at it and say, I think I'm going to prospect for my leads or prospect for maybe potential customers in this particular neighborhood because there is a higher volume of credit score to home services ratios in this neighborhood. How valuable would that be to anyone in the industry? Hugely valuable.
And so is there ways right now that you could pull up a website and pay for a subscription and gain access to that information?
There is under development. We can get that information manually at this point. But
so that's a lot of information to compile.
It is.
And it's not really established yet. Just like AI isn't fully established, those types of service aren't fully established where you get all of it in one place.
No, but that is underway. The thing is the reality of AI is it's really just taking away the manual labor of things.
Yeah.
It's just really
that is highly intensive manual type of data collection.
It is. If I was going to pull in information on 100 homes and decide on the spot, should I go into this neighborhood or maybe send a mailer out to this neighborhood? Should I do some digital advertising in this neighborhood?
You can do it.
I can do it.
It just takes a lot of effort.
It's going to take 100 homes, clicking through all that data, credit score on this person. Oh, goodness, take forever. But AI and the speed that has come from it, because that was our only limitation, was the speed of the AI, right? It could always do things, but it's, oh gosh, well, I'll let it run for a couple hours.
So AI and those types of data collection services are, we talk about like level 1, level 2, level 3 type of training in our business. That's for a business owner. That's maybe some level 3 type of stuff.
It is. It certainly is.
So now for somebody who's a little bit earlier in the process, which this was us not very long ago, some things just as simple as a CRM.
A CRM.
Like a couple of years ago, we had a $10 million business before I even knew what a CRM was. And I know that there's other people out there too that they don't even know yet that that's a limitation for them.
There are. We run into this all the time in marketing industry, particularly among those who are, hey, if your forte is sales, great, push that sales. If your forte is sales, push your forte. And sometimes that comes at people's detriment because as they focus on one particular aspect, they don't see the bigger picture, which is, hey, my life would be a lot easier in sales if I was utilizing the available tools such as a CRM.
Yeah.
Now, there are dozens of types of CRM. We've heard them, Salesforce, and well, we can go on a big list. However, you don't necessarily need to go out and make a huge investment. If you're just starting, you can start at the very simple level and get yourself a virtual assistant.
Which is
$5
exactly what we did.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can find something that's set up relatively close for what your needs are. You got to do the research because you don't want to get stuck in one and get too far down the road developing before you realize that it's not a good fit.
Absolutely.
But we had to do that. We started at a place where it was what we thought we needed, and it served us for 18 months.
The most beneficial thing you have is the ability to research. My little line is that intelligence has very little to do with just your brain capacity. You cut this all away, we kind of have all the same organs inside us. Yeah. It's more of what is the ability to find the information you're looking for.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, if I wanted to know about, a beehive, right? And how to raise bees.
Are you trying to raise bees?
I'm trying to.
Do you have them already at your house?
Oh, no, I don't. It's
Dude, that's so funny. I've been researching beehives also.
Well, look, here we go, right? Minds are connecting here.
Awesome.
But if I wanted to research it before, I better go find myself the bee club in the local city.
Or like a magazine.
Encyclopedia magazine, and try to research it.
So different.
Order it all up. Impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was possible, but that information was not readily available. Right. Nowadays, if I want to say, okay, I want to raise bees in my backyard, how do I do it? Well, here's all the rules, regulations, how-tos, instructionals. What do I do if I have this? The information is at our fingertips. That's the amazing thing we have, unlike any other time in our history. And so when you are coming in, you want to research, how do I prepare a CRM? Which CRM is best for me? Well, there really is no one size fits all. Yeah. It requires that research. It requires also finding a trustworthy source of information. And whether that's a friend, an individual, an associate, or your favorite YouTube channel.
Which I think is the best, because there's a lot of salesmen that work at these technology companies, and they are good.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many of these pitches now. And if you're going off of a salesman's pitch, most of the time those guys don't even know what the capabilities are of that CRM.
Absolutely.
But their job is to sell it. So your best result is always going to come from an example or a success story of another company that's used it and they've been successful, and they can help you in your implementation, and they can help you understand if it's a good fit, even if it's across another industry. You can get a pretty good idea based off of somebody's customer service experience and the utilization, if it's going to be a good fit for you.
Absolutely. Well, you're 100% right on that. One of my favorite things to do in these sales calls when I'm speaking with people, as I usually do in the course of my work.
Yeah.
And I'll know I'm speaking with a salesman because I'll throw out acronyms that I know that have nothing to do with the industry.
Yes.
And they'll, well, so when you're applying that BIL, like BIL didn't mean anything, right? In this particular conversation I'm having.
Yeah.
Yet they'll use it thinking that they're selling me on something. So really finding that reliable information and getting down to the actual tech behind the work, because they'll give you the honest story. No, that would never work for you. The salesman will want to strangle him, right? But you need to look out for what is best for your company and not always speak with the salesman first. If you can 100%. Break past that wall and get someone who can help you interpret that.
100%. Yep. So, and in the beginning, I didn't have that. It was just me trying to decipher the differences in what they were offering and trying to tell if that salesperson was being genuine, if they understood their technology. And I learned some very valuable lessons.
Oh, sure.
And got roped into some technologies because of great salespeople that weren't a good fit for me. So having somebody that's kind of an advocate for you that understands technology, like I would, if I was doing that now and we were doing an implementation on a new technology, I've got some great teammates that can jump on there and understand the language and be able to ask the questions. And that was one of the biggest things was just being able to ask the right questions.
That's right. That's right. With technology and its complexities, you can't just simply walk in and assume one subject applies to another. Each one has very specific nuances, and sometimes you're paying for something you'll never use. Yeah. And you may say, well, I'm going to go out and we'll compare this to me going out and buying a car. Well, one may say I'm buying a little roadster that, hey, it's a 2-seater and boy, that thing takes off. And one might say, well, I spent $200,000 on my semi here. Why in the world does my $200,000 semi go slower than your $20,000 roadster? Well, one was built for their very specific purposes. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're not hauling a ton of stuff, don't go out and spend $200,000. Buy yourself the roadster.
And that brings up a good point, because where we started was just based off of our perspective and where we were at in business. That's what we thought we needed.
Yeah.
And it was a great platform. It served us. It taught us about CRMs to begin with, mm-hmm. and what some of the beginning stages and capabilities were of implementing a CRM.
Oh yeah.
But now at the stage that we're at, with the plans that we have for our business, the growth, the overall technology stack that we want to have for mm-hmm. us as we grow to multiple 8 figures and 9-figure business, mm-hmm. it was a huge investment for us to commit to Salesforce and the implementation. Oh, yeah. And still all the additional implementation that we have going on a daily and weekly and monthly basis to continue to build it out.
And this is the importance of having a business, not just plan, but a vision, understanding where am I going to be in this time? Mm-hmm. And am I making an investment of both time and, of course, money into something that will become obsolete in a year or 2 years? Right. And how can I absorb that? So with technology, because it's changing so quickly, finding a piece of technology that has broken past the trend mark, right? Mm-hmm. And broken into a truly innovative, market-changing piece of technology, such as our CRM technology. That's something that's widespread, industry-wide. Before it wasn't. And then there were integrations and APIs. All that was like, oh, can we do this? Can we do this? Can mm-hmm. we do this? Now we know that it's not just trend. It actually has transformed the industry. Sure. And so when we look at any one of these items, make sure, and this would be the advice I would give to any home service marketer, owner, or anyone really exploring this, is to lay out what your goals are and then coincide it with existing technology that has already proven longevity. Start safe and then innovate, because you know what you're going to need mm-hmm. later on. But first, start with a good baseline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And only with a vision will you know, because I know a lot of home service companies and small business owners and even like solopreneurs, mm-hmm. they're hanging around a bunch of people that are at or below their level. And they're only capable of seeing as high as what their surroundings are providing them with.
That's right.
So you really want to start stretching your imagination. You got to hang out with people that are operating at a very high level, that have done things 10 times, 100 times more than you have. And so you start to pick up on little things that they do and their little disciplines and the way that they think about life and in business.
That's right.
And that's one of the ways that we've been able to move as quickly as we have, is by the little groups that I'm a part of and the experts that we bring in to talk to our team. Because mm-hmm. otherwise we would still be sitting there with that old CRM.
You must emulate excellence always. Mm-hmm. Emulate excellence. You surround yourself by those who are successful. It bleeds off on you. You can't help but be influenced by your friends or those around you. We hear about peer pressure. Well, there's a very positive peer pressure out there. And that's if your peers are people who are successful or who are constant innovators or come up with these ideas that, you can share with that vision. It mm-hmm. bleeds off on you. It's inevitable. So, it's a lifestyle choice, but also it's an ability to see how you are going to improve yourself is by making sure that you are surrounding yourself by people who've gone through the same thing and improved themselves.
Yeah. It's such a game changer. It's such an opportunity for. I read a book one time. It was called U Squared, and it talked about this quantum leap technology, or this concept. Uh-huh. So instead of going through each challenge by yourself and learning as you go and being able to innovate and evolve and adapt just mm-hmm. based off your own experiences, that would basically be you. Like you by yourself. But this U squared and this quantum leap concept, it starts talking about how you can apply other people's experiences that sometimes you have to pay for to be able to accelerate the process.
That's right.
And when we're talking about the multi 6-figure investment that we put into our CRM, you don't come up with that by yourself. Like if I was just going off of my own experience, I would have not invested in that. We would be sitting with that same technology.
I'd be hesitant to sell my house for it, but I hear you.
I mean, it's a huge commitment.
It is.
But you've got to think about the things that are going to take you to the next level. Some people want to do this, some people don't. But I'm talking to the people who want to accelerate the process, who want to have an access to quantum leaps in their self as leaders and in their business. And you've got to surround yourself with those types of people to stretch your vision.
You absolutely do. I mean, it is I suppose, a goal of any entrepreneur is to reach that success, but you can't do it without that vision. And you've got to surround yourself. I'm 100% with you on that. I did want to bring up one item of caution.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen in the past few years the Silicon Valley startups and drops, and they're going back to technology and innovation, where we see like things like, 1 in 10 will make it.
Well, there's a reason why there's this coined term in that space that they use a lot. It's called a unicorn.
Yes.
Because there's thousands of these technology companies that are started every day.
Absolutely.
And only, one in ever so many ever even become something that's relevant.
Yeah, it's oftentimes enthusiasm will mask the product for a time, but eventually the truth comes out. You've got to also develop your product, meaning both technologically as well as engineer, something viable.
Yeah.
We've seen things like big names like Theranos, right? That had the youngest billionaire that she's now serving 11-year prison sentence, right? And then we see things like the Juicero, right? Was this $750 juicing machine that Bloomberg exposed as only thing it does is squeeze a juice bag, right? But $700. The problem is that they had huge investors. They had a lot of people
created a bunch of excitement.
Created a bunch of excitement. And that speaks to the salesmanship and entrepreneurial nature of the people who started. So as much as I want to push the enthusiasm, which I do, you can't survive without enthusiasm in business, I would always caution that make sure that it's always backed up by a very viable product. So a lot of times we go, I'm going to market the living heck out of this item. Well, if I'm marketing the living heck out of an item that nobody wants, right? You can get the best marketing team, best innovative technology, best CRM surrounding technology. And if you're all trying to push something that is not a viable product, you're going to be running into problems, much like many of these billionaires who are now serving jail sentences. So not to rain on that parade, but to temper it and say that you've got to surround yourself by both people who are visionaries, but will also not just share their vision, but share their cautions, share their mistakes they made, right?
100%.
I did this and it was a bad idea. That's where all the
best lessons come from.
Exactly.
It's from mistakes. And for you to accelerate your growth, that's the best way to do it, is gain access to people who have made a ton of mistakes and can teach you the path not to go down.
Absolutely.
You still need to make mistakes. You've got to have obstacles in your life to be able to grow, but there's a lot of them that you can surpass by gaining access to coaches and mentors and consultants and advisors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm 100% behind you on that.
Going along with the CRM and the advancements in technology, early on in business, there was a lot of these data points that I would love to have been able to see.
Yes.
And, we're still developing a lot of them.
We are.
So it's kind of like pie in the sky stuff, but technology makes it possible for you without a lot of manual entry to be able to see conversion rates and closing ratios. And, when it comes to like financials and your job costing, there's so many things that are created by the ability to first have technology and then be able to find a way to utilize it and collect data, good data, so you can compile it and create the the reports and be able to draw information out that you can use to then make good business decisions.
Exactly. So what we're doing, for example, right now in the business is we've developed a conversion formula in determining, okay, based on the CRM data that we're getting, when we call out to potential leads or folks who are interested in our business, what is the best time to call them? Does our conversion rate increase between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock? Does it increase between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock? Before you'd have to write all that down and analyze it afterwards, I can get real time with a CRM saying, hey, every time that your call center calls between this time and this time, your conversion rate for some reason goes up another 2 or 3 percentage points. Now, multiply that by a revenue by month. You can think about it. Take that over to your CFO and say, hey, we can get another 2 or 3% by having our call setters make their outbound calls between this time and this time. Now, those are little nuance, eyes may glaze over when you start talking too much in the formula, but think about the income prospects of that. And the CRM is meant to tell you those things, to report on it. So you can make a business decision based on data, not on, well, I think we should do this.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of business owners operate, is on feeling.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them that do it really well. Mm-hmm. I'm one of them. Like, there was a lot of things that I was operating on feeling off of. And then when we actually have the data to look at, it was like I drawed it out of the ether and I was like relatively close.
Well, it's sure great when the data backs you up, right? But, which is wonderful. I mean, the problem is that you had that ability to foresee it, right? And have a vision that coincided with the data. But there's some of us that are just like, well, I think I'm not sure what I should do.
But then there's sometimes when you can be way off and it can be detrimental to your business.
And that's the thing. It's so much better when the data is, when you're backing up the data, right? Instead of the data backing you up, right? That is more of a, I've looked at this and I've made a decision purely based on mathematics. Mathematics will not lie to you, right? If it says that this is going to happen, if you do this, well, gosh, amplify that, multiply it. Sustainable growth is the goal of any business. If your business is not growing, it's dying, right? There's really a business that stagnates will run into issues. And so being able to look at that mathematics and say, hey, if we're stagnating, this is the number we need to grow, right? Absolutely. That's the wonderful option given by CRMs, as well as many different technologies that are coming out that allow you to truly analyze and base all your business decisions on predictable metrics.
So for somebody who's just starting and they're trying to build a digital marketing department like we are, we're 18 months into this and we've made a ton of progress. We've learned a lot of lessons.
We sure have.
We had a lot of things that we had to learn early on the hard way. Yeah. But let's offer up some value here for people, maybe to help them start from a place that can be economical and some data points for them to start working towards that are going to help them with some of those decisions that will help them become more profitable.
Absolutely. Finding a reliable digital marketing campaign. Now, this is for every product you have, whether it's, you're actually selling the product itself on the site or you're actually performing a sale in their home. Finding a reliable marketing company, one that has longevity, is the key.
It has successful experiences,
track
record with other companies.
Exactly. And that's why I look at longevity. How long have they been around? How successful have they been? Who are their major clients? Now, here's the item that a lot of people get it. Well, how much should I really be paying a marketing company? Right? Is it normal for me to be paying that much? Well, there's often a la carte options, but the rule of thumb in as I've seen as a standard is 10% of your marketing costs. So if I spend $1,000 on ads, right, I will pay that marketing company $100 as their service fee. Okay. So don't overspend. Make sure you're buying what you need.
And does that scale up?
It
also?
Does.
So if we were spending $1 million a month, we could expect to be paying a company $100,000
That's generally
Per
the
month.
standard. Yep. There are some
For their services.
nuances and changes, and there are a la carte options, such as we know SEO, blog posts, everything from content creation, content editing, depending on their involvement. And that's something that you need to judge out depending on your particular service. But the general rule of thumb is stay within that 10, sometimes 15%, depending on this particular service, and don't overspend on it. There is, even in an area such as a small city, if I'm going to spend and buy myself a digital marketing company, I'm just starting out and I want to get my product known to everyone in my city.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to start throwing in $1 million, right? Or a huge ad spend. Because the issue is once I've bought about 80% of the audience, once I've made sure that my ad is seen by 70, 80% of the audience, to buy the rest of that 20% is exponential. You get this really, really expensive curve up in price because you start taking on the competitive prices. Yeah. So don't think that, well, if it took me $100 to buy me 50 views on my product, well, if I spend $200, I should get 100. Not always the case. Right. Sometimes 200 will only get you 65.
And that's the benefits of being able to understand the data.
It is. And there's a lot of tools that will map that out for you, both CRMs, but also your digital marketing company should be giving you that information. And oftentimes we have the digital marketing company report to us and you're just like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know what that means.
We just have to trust them because we don't know what it means.
So educate yourself on what a CPC is, cost per click. What does it cost per conversion? What should it be? Ask them these pointed questions from an educated background because it takes a few minutes for you just to get on and look at what is these acronyms.
And if you can't ask those questions, it's, I'm not saying that people are dishonest, but you just, you start taking advantage of people a little bit when you don't, when you understand that they don't have an understanding of this.
Well, you invite unethical behavior. Never put yourself into
That's what I was trying to say.
Never put yourself in a situation where you can invite unethical behavior. Never tempt someone into taking more money from you.
Because listen, we've worked with some incredible companies.
We have.
Very good people. But when you don't bring that knowledge to the table, they're just going about their business, collecting their money and doing the minimum because you don't have anything to use to hold them accountable.
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've called up and started speaking shop language with a digital marketer and had them step back in their seat like, oh, dang, he sees the numbers, right? And that's the thing is you're going to have a lot more performance from your digital marketing teams, when you have an understanding of what the metrics are.
Yes. And along with that understanding comes this belief in the investment that you're making. Because it's not just, if you want to create more revenue for your company, you have to be able to come to terms with the investment that you got to make in that department.
That's right.
And it's a little bit of the service fee to that company, and then it's the ad spend also.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing is make sure, and this is where a lot of folks drop the ball as well, is when you're signing a contract with a digital marketing team, oftentimes they will give you a period in which, a contract period, right? Okay. Yeah. Make sure, and this is where I've seen a lot of little tricky business, make sure there's a performance clause in there. And what that is that make sure that what you've agreed upon, right, has remedies of you being able to move out of the contract. Yeah. Who wants to be working with someone that they find out is a scammer 3 months after getting in? You may have they may have interviewed well, sold well, they maybe spoke the language.
But you don't want to get locked in that that agreement or that relationship if there's nothing to back it up.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the things that I struggled with to begin with because I didn't know what those benchmarks should be. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And unless you do, you've got to come prepared. You've got to educate yourself. You got to see what the industry standards are so you can have some performance stuff put together like that to hold them accountable. There has to be accountability.
Exactly.
That's the one thing that I had to learn the hard way was without accountability, They're going to collect your money, and they're glad you don't know the numbers. They're glad you don't know what things to hold them accountable to, because they can just do the bare minimum and then get away with it.
That's right. Well, and there's a lot
and they'll keep pushing you off. Like, this is something that takes some time to ramp up.
Oh, goodness.
We're talking like 6-8 months here that's going to take to ramp it up.
Favorite line. That's what they
There's
love
a ramp
to say.
up phase.
It's a ramp up phase. There is minor
If
truth
you
to
see that, if you start hearing that, run for the hills.
Yep. You better be asking some serious questions. And I'll tell you, my last thing I would say is with regard to digital marketing and, these tools is the content. If I give you a scenario, if I get the best graphic designer out there in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And I run this through testing, I send it off to trial groups and they give me their feedback. Everyone says this is the best ad I've ever seen. And then you take that ad, put it on a billboard, but where do you place that billboard? Off in the middle of the Nevada desert, maybe 2 cars every 2 hours.
Right.
Maybe if you're lucky. What good was the ad? What good was the graphic designer? Mm-hmm. Right? Oftentimes I find that people mistake marketing with just the content creation. Mm-hmm. It is hugely the placement. If I got my little 10-year-old to draw me up a picture and put the phone number on it, and I put it on northbound of some major arterial entry of a city or on the interstate, which one's going to get more calls? The one that had the world premiere
is the one
designer?
with the volume of eyeballs.
Exactly. So I don't want to discount content creation. It's very important. But please temper it with a very high consideration of placement. Where are you putting this? And do I have a company, or do I have a trusted network of people that will find the right place to put it? Mm-hmm. There's so many videos and wonderful content, pictures, ads that have been created and spent a lot of money on, and then they just put it in the drawer and says, well, I wonder why no one's looking at this. It's the downfall of many startups is making an amazing professional presentation without any professional distribution.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can apply that to even one of the main reasons why most businesses don't succeed is a slight variation of that when it comes to just being able to get their product in front of enough people fast enough.
That's right.
For them to stay afloat. Because ultimately it comes down to you being able to pay the bills and pay your people and pay yourself.
Get on it quick.
And if you don't put it in the right place, it doesn't matter how good it is. If you have a great concept and you got a great product, but you don't get it in front of enough people fast enough, none of that other stuff even matters.
Well, and that's taking it down from, the same phrase. If you're not growing, you're dying. Well, that same day, if you didn't grow today, you died a little today. If you didn't grow the next day, you died a little because you still had to pay those bills. You still had to pay payroll. You still had to pay your advertising.
And you're getting that much closer to the end of the month when you got to pay your rent.
Exactly. And so that's the whole point, is making sure that there's an urgency behind this. And the primary thing is that you're researching, you're chasing down these opportunities and making sure that you are at the forefront.
There's got to be a level of urgency, and you've got to take some initiative as a business owner or as the leader of that department to be able to continue to move the needle, innovate, adapt, evolve. The technology, the market is changing every day.
It is.
All of the different companies that are coming in with AI and the new platforms.
I'll tell you, if I'm not looking at the tech every day, I feel like I'm behind. It's something that, and if it's not you, it's someone you trust that is looking at it every day and going, okay, how could I use that in my business? How could I use this in my business? And being at the front of it, it's not necessarily jump on every little new shiny thing.
Right.
But by being aware of it, you can start seeing true market trends and then true market innovations. Mm-hmm. And so it allows you to make a really good decision based on those observations.
Yeah, there is. I think that's one thing that entrepreneurs have in common is they're attracted to the shiny objects.
Yeah.
So we kind of went down the path of technology and data and marketing today. And there's, I hope, a lot of things that you can apply to your business and your own personal situation. And the key thing here is that as business owners, we get a lot going on, and there's always this thought about what's next and how do we innovate and how do we improve and how do we take what we're already doing and do it better. But the big thing is, for me, that I've had to learn the hard way is that you take all that information and you got to make quick decisions, but you got to make good decisions, and you got to see what's relevant for your situation. How relevant is it for me right now to develop a digital marketing department in my business and technology and the investment that it takes to do that? And if you're not already a part of a business group or using consultants and coaches and advisors, then I would highly suggest it, because that's how sometimes you gain that extra perspective that you need to be able to help you make those decisions. So over time, you get the repetitions in so you can be able to do it yourself. So anyways, y'all, thanks for checking in to another episode of Just Real Quick. Thank you, Matt, for your contribution today.
Thanks for having me.
And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the Just Real Quick podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. That obviously helps with the credibility of the podcast and with the algorithms. I'm not sure how they work, and nobody can really explain it to me, but this is what I hear. Like, subscribe, share it with somebody you know. Leave us a 5-star review. We want to try and get this in front of as many salespeople and business owners and entrepreneurs and people within our home services space as we possibly can, to continue to bring value every week from here at the Just Real Quick podcast headquarters. We'll see you next time.